I used to really struggle with my weight. And when I was in that space, I was a heavy calorie counter. I counted everything. I logged everything into MyFitnessPal, and I just didn't seem to be able to lose weight. From every single fad diet that I'd done, I had created this really unrealistic expectation around what I thought that I needed to do and how strict I needed to be with my diet in order to get results. So what would happen is I would be super strict and I'd max out my willpower and I'd do it for about 3 weeks. And then I'd totally fall off the wagon. I would binge eat. I would eat absolutely everything that I felt deprived on. And that might go on for a week, 2 weeks, even sometimes a month or more. Before I'd tell myself off, I'd berate myself, and then I'd force myself to get back on the wagon. Now, what I realized happened as a result of this constant calorie counting and being so obsessed with the amount of calories that I was consuming is that when I would go into these binge eating states, and I'd feel like I was off the wagon, I felt like I just totally maxed my willpower. I would work out how many calories I'd binged on, so it might be like 700 or 1,000 or something. And then what I'd do is I'd go the next day to the gym and I would work myself to the bone until I burnt that many calories on my wall. From what I understand now, I was actually trying to ease my guilt, my shame, and my frustration, and also my fear that nothing was ever going to change, that I was going to be stuck in this cycle forever. So I would just berate myself and put myself down. I felt so much anxiety around food and around my ability to manage my weight because it appeared that nothing I did and nothing I signed up to worked for me. And I had very little self-esteem and very little belief in the fact that I would ever be able to change that. So as a result of this, my relationship with food was really poor. I saw everything as good or bad foods, and if I ate what was perceived as bad foods, so say I had chocolate or an ice cream or anything like that, I wouldn't even necessarily enjoy it because I'd be telling myself off when I was having it and saying, Chelsea, you shouldn't be having this, you know better, you're never going to lose weight, what's wrong with you, you don't have any willpower. And those resonating statements were seriously damaging my self-esteem. Now, as a health coach, work with clients to break that binge and compensate cycle. Now, women, when they come to me, often talk to me about how they feel they have zero self-control around food, and they even speak about how they feel like the food in the house is calling their name. So if it's around, they can't stop thinking about it, and it's like it's consuming them. And I understand that because I have actually been there myself. Now, when you're in this binge and compensate cycle, this is actually a disordered eating cycle. The compensatory behaviors can include things like over-exercising so that you can burn off the 700 or the 1,000 calories that you think that you consumed. It can be vomiting after meals because you feel so full or you feel disgusted in yourself. It can be taking laxatives because you want to create that feeling of emptiness or try and remove that weight. Or it can be fasting for long periods of time or just eating very little to try and compensate for the fact that you feel like you've eaten too much. Now, none of these compensatory behaviors are effective in the long run. They're very damaging for your mental health and also for your physical health, and they don't change your weight. Now, the problem is that the stress that's created from this type of relationship with food is that it makes you crave more carbs and sugar. So you're actually in a space where you physically can't help yourself and you have very strong, intense cravings. And so, of course, you end up giving in, you feel more anxious about it, you feel more frustrated with yourself, and so it continues. You try and pull back by compensating, and then you end up binging, compensating, trying to binge. So if you want to change your relationship with food, you want to stop this compensating behavior, you have to start to think, okay, why is it that I get triggered? Why do I turn to those foods? What comfort do I get from those foods? And you have to start to assess and change how you perceive foods and stop this good or bad or all or nothing mentality. Ladies, beating yourself up about the foods that you've eaten or what you should or should not have done does not change your weight. What changes your weight is getting to a space in which you respect yourself enough to make good decisions consistently, where you want to fuel your body because you want the energy and you deserve to feel good. Now, if I was able to break this horrible cycle of binging and compensating, and I was able to get out of that and totally change my relationship with food and also the way that I respected and treated myself, I know that you can too. So why don't you have some faith? Click the button and let's do this together.